Let me guess, you either avoided AI completely because you thought it's cheating, or you've tried it once, got a generic paragraph back and thought, yeah, this is useless. Both reactions make sense, but they all lead to the same problem. Most grad students don't have a framework to use AI in academic writing. They treat it like a magic button: write my literature review, fix my paper, summarize everything. And then when the output is blunt, wrong, and full of made-up citations, they either quit using AI totally, or they copy-paste it and just hope nobody notices. Here's the truth. The problem is not even the model, it's the architecture that you wrap around the prompt. Most prompts are missing information that make academic prompts lead to academic outputs. Things like who is this for, what it's for, and what it must not do. So in this video, I will give you one simple method to use AI in academia that you can use on Monday morning for your thesis, your paper, your grant, your supervisor, update meeting, anything. So in this video, we will cover what AI is for and what it's not for. We will cover the ethics system so that you can use it without worrying too much about cheating. We will talk about the overreliance map, so what happens when you rely too much on AI. And I will also give you a Monday morning AI workflow that you can just copy and implement to your own research. But before we start, if you haven't met me yet, hi, I'm Aynur. I'm a final year PhD student in chemical engineering at Imperial College London. And I made it my mission to teach you every secret I know in academia, video by video through all my social media channels. So without further ado, let's dive right into the video. So let's start this video with prompt engineering, okay? So how to write prompts that actually deliver what you're looking for. Most prompts fail because they are too underspecified. When you give AI the right to go into 1,000 different directions, it will just pick the one that it leans towards to the most, but this might not be the one that leads to the results that you want, right? So we have to really make sure that our AI, our LLM model understands what we want from it to get these specific results that we so desperately need for academic research. Another word for this would be prompt engineering, how to basically just tell AI what to do, a fancy word for that. And honestly, there is only three main things that you need to think about when you engineer. One is audience. So who is this for? Are you writing an academic proposal, a research grant, a PhD thesis? What is this for? Is this for your supervisor, for yourself? Who's the audience? Specify this. Then purpose. What is the goal? Like what do you want to achieve with this prompt? What is the LLM model supposed to do? So what's the purpose? Okay, so we've got audience, purpose, and then very important, each prompt needs constraints. So what the model must not do. Okay, we need to really narrow down the things that it can or cannot do. So things like don't exceed this word count, don't make up any reference, only use the notes that I've pasted to you, don't add anything from yourself. These are very valuable constraints that will then lead to specific clear results. And honestly, this becomes the spine of your AI workflow. If you do this for every prompt that you use, you will get just this will increase the quality of the work that you do with AI by a lot. Immensely. On another topic, just very briefly, if you are currently in the situation that you're writing a literature review and you are drowning in papers, struggling to find a research gap, and just overall are just procrastinating your time away, I have just recently launched an How to Write a Literature Review Using Free AI Tools course. Over 100 people bought it, and so far you guys have absolutely loved it. Even though I have a 2-week money-back guarantee, nobody returned the course, so the return rate is 0%. So in case you need help with this, check out the link in the description box. And that's all I wanted to say here. Let's continue with the video. So now let's talk about the mindset shift, how we think about AI. Because at the moment, I see two types of grad students in academia. One is camp 1, I'll never use AI, it's cheating. And the other extreme, camp 2, is I'll use AI for everything. It'll write the thesis, okay? Both are two extremes, okay? We need to find that sweet spot in the middle. So essentially, you need to think of AI as your research assistant, not your author. Imagine you have a little undergrad student that you can supervise, and you can outsource small tasks to that undergrad student and kind of have a little assistant by your side, okay? This does not mean that you will leave that undergrad student to write your thesis, because obviously it won't be able to do that. It will mess it up. He or she will mess it up, right? So assistant, yes, not author. So basically this means that you keep ownership over the central idea, the central argument, your interpretations, your claims. All these things are from your brain. That's important. That's what makes up an author, right? But what you can use AI for is always things like brainstorming, adjusting your wording, looking for synonyms, cleaning up paragraphs, checking grammar and stuff that anyways. Also synthesizing information, creating overview tables, organizing your notes, these are things that any assistant would do, right? If we were able to afford assistants as grad students, that's something that you would outsource to an assistant. Yeah, so that's something you can outsource for free to an AI agent. And this is also where this, if you think back about how to write a prompt and the purpose statement, right? This is where this circles back to the purpose. If your purpose is critique my paper, find any weak spots and help me get this to a publishable state, then you'll use an LLM to really critique your paper, give you valuable feedback so that you can work on them. If you use it as, oh, I just want to get this written, and use it as an author and you just say, hey, write this paper for me, then you'll use AI to write that paper, but you'll be sure that this paper is nonsense. It will be fabricated and it won't meet the quality standard and it will damage your academic reputation. For that, you really have to be super careful. There is a thin line between assistant and author. So now, obviously, this sounds like an ideal world, right? Use AI as an assistant, not as an author, and then it's all super ethical. In reality, there is a trap, and this is what I'm going to talk about. And this is basically the over-reliance trap, because the more you use AI, the more you rely to it, and the less you develop skills like writing, okay? And it's really hard to keep that line, because obviously it's easier to just tell AI, hey, these are my notes, turn this into a written paragraph, okay, thank you, done, next task, right? So yes, AI can make you productive, but at the same time, it can also make you worse at writing and other skills. So what you can do is you can impose some constraints for yourself. For example, you can say one non-AI writing blog per week. So just so that you know, at least so that you can produce a draft by yourself and then pass through AI to make it sound better, but to not lose the skill of writing overall entirely, because that's really a sad skill to lose. And what I like to use is I like to use prompts where I say critique for clarity, do not rewrite, just give me feedback. And then I implement the feedback myself. I go through the text and I implement it myself. And I do this especially for the final drafts of text, because I cannot trust AI to create final drafts of text. I need to do that by myself, because while AI changes one paragraph, it then also changes the second sentence or something else that I didn't ask it to change. So it takes more time to just double check that everything is the way it is than to just go back in and do these changes by myself. And it also trains you for writing anyway. So, that's a challenge. So the better you get with using AI, the harder it is to actually also get work done by yourself and not cross that fragile line between author and assistant. So let's say you kept to all these rules, you used AI as an assistant, not as an author, and you did everything well, good job. Now it's about to publish that paper or that thesis or whatsoever. So now what are the ethics? What is the disclosure that we do? So number one rule that most journals now require, and also when I have to submit my PhD thesis, that's what's required, is to declare how I've used AI. So it is not enough to say I use ChatGPT for this thesis. I have to specify which model I use. For example, I use Claude a lot. So I have to say I use Claude Opus, I think it's now 5.7 for, and then I'll just list the things I used it for. So obviously grammar and language check. And then it could be writing the Python codes to create the plots used in this figure. So being specific about what you've used AI for is part of AI disclosure. Some journals also require that you declare the prompts that you've used. So for big prompts, let's say you did a big project with AI, it's allowed, but you did it and you know it, then save that prompt. I have a Notion template with a prompt database. So something like this would be super useful. You don't have to use Notion for that. You can just use any document, but just to organize your prompts there, keep them there, and then once it's needed, you can just pull it out and then declare the prompt that you've used. Now, very important, and I say this in almost every video, you have to with references, you have to verify them. And any reference that came from an AI model, you need to verify not only that this reference exists, but also that what AI says the reference claims, the reference really claims. Because trust me, I have met no model, neither Claude nor ChatGPT, no Gemini that get this right. So if AI makes up references or uses references, you can be sure that for 70 or 80% of the cases, either the reference is fabricated or the reference exists, but it does not support the claim that it says it does. So it's bullshit. So when you see a reference, just know it's a red flag. Alarm bells must ring. Where did this reference come from? Explain yourself. That's very important. And if you do these two things, disclose AI what you've used for with the prompts, and keep a simple log to not forget, and also verify the references, you're really on a great path. You do more than so many people already do. So you're good to go. Best practice. So now finally, let's move on to an AI workflow week for writing, like how I would use AI if I like schedule a week for writing, which I will actually do next week. So next week I'm going to write my methodology chapter. I'm going to spend 1 week to do that. So what I would do is on Monday, the beginning of the week, I will plan my writing sessions. So the week, because methodology is a chapter that can be written quite fast, I will basically divide methodology in subsections and really think about, okay, where do I put what, which part of the methodology belongs where, so what's like kind of my input, right? And then I would also on the same day set up my Zotero library and double check or like organize the stuff, because I have like methodology papers that I know, okay, like these methodology papers all belong in there. And then also, because I love to work with Notebook LM, I would upload the same methodology papers to a Notebook LM notebook, so that I can always like keep chatting with Notebook LM if I have questions or any specific things. Where can I find this in the paper? So this really helps me as an assistant to like open up. If you don't know how to use it, I have multiple videos on Notebook LM on my channel, so just feel free to keep browsing. And then basically my draft session begins. So I would use Notebook LM to create like notes and use the papers that I have to validate those notes, and then I would start drafting the different parts of my methodology section. And this is probably the part that takes 50% or 60% of the time that I have throughout the week, and I'm talking about a 7-day week, right? So let's say 3 days drafting the methodology chapter, and then I will use another day. So this would be then the 5th day. First day was planning, 3 days writing. 5th day would be to use AI to edit. So I would paste everything into Claude using the Opus model, and then I would use it for editing. Like I would specifically say, this is what the audience is, PhD thesis. Audience is the thesis committee, and the goal is to write the methodology chapter of my thesis, and constraints are to keep to what I've written. Do not add anything new. I just need a review, a critique to this methodology. I don't need you to write my methodology, just give me feedback on it. So that's the constraint. And then basically I would use the remaining 2 days to go through everything again, work through the feedback and make adjustments. So this is going to be my 7-week how to write a methodology plan that you can then also implement for your own writing tasks. That being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you found it useful, make sure to like, subscribe, comment below to this video. Every engagement means a lot for the growth of this channel, because this is still a baby channel, and by growing this channel I can ensure that you get much better quality videos, so we will both benefit from this. And if you haven't done so already, make sure to check out my Instagram channel where I share daily bite-sized piece academic tips, so don't miss out on these. And apart from that, stay safe wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.